This is Adam Taxin. It's just after midnight on the East Coast on Monday, April 30th, 2012. I am speaking with Daniel Greenfield about his most recent column that just came out, The Empire of Poverty. Daniel, thanks for talking to me about this. First of all, what do you mean by an empire of poverty?
When I used the metaphor of an empire, of a water empire, I meant an empire that controls people by controlling resources. Now, what resources does the current empire control? It controls poverty. We have an empire of social services, an empire of welfare, an empire of unemployment, an empire of government spending and government jobs.
What do you mean by an empire? I mean, the word empire means a certain thing, or it's just a metaphor there?
Well, that is what we've created. We've increasingly drifted away from the state model. We've drifted toward a centralized federal system and then to a transnational system.
And you use the term in there, it's a term I haven't heard much before, water empire. I think the first time you use it is in regard to China. Can you explain what you mean by that?
It's, as I said, an empire that controls people by controlling resources.
How does, that brings me to, how does centralization of resources relate to all of this? Is that really the goal, so you can create the poverty?
Yes, it is. In those systems, you have to create a wealth to where you direct it, you create poverty to where you direct it, and you centralize everything. All the trains run through the central system. Everything goes outward, everything goes into the government, and it goes out from the government.
And is that really just about controlling people?
That's the core of it. You've got to control a large amount of people, and how do you really do that? How can you control a huge, diverse population? It's very difficult. For example, in China's case, China kept breaking down because it's really very hard to control large territories, even with modern technology.
How does global warming relate to all of this, so-called global warming?
It provides the perfect pretext. It creates a crisis that provides a pretext for complete government monopolization, taxation, and confiscation of all resources. Since there's a global emergency, the planet is about to burn up, and if we don't do something, if we don't give government virtually unlimited powers, then all the polar bears will die, the planet will melt, and we'll be living in Waterworld.
And stability is really the goal. I think you say it's a fundamental mandate that you talk about.
Yeah, you have to create a system that is completely unchanging. And to do that, you have to cut off upward mobility. You have to cut off that kind of wild energy of capitalism, the free enterprise, that explosive energy that makes it possible for people to break out, to invent new things, to go a different way. You have to cut all that off and clamp down on people all in the name of a greater crisis.
Yet, despite the fact that that the empire is very anti-capitalism, it's not so anti-corporations. Can you explain that a little bit?
It's the worship of bigness. A corporation isn't that big of a problem because if you integrate government and corporations, then you have one massive system. The threat is the small things. It's like the elephant that sees the mice running around on their foot. That's their attitude towards small business, toward individual entrepreneurs, because those people have the capacity to disrupt the system. The large entities, governments, and corporations have an interest in stability. They're invested in keeping the system going the way it is and in avoiding change. They want a monopoly. It's the individuals, it's the entrepreneurs, it's the small businesses who change things.
Final question I have for you is, you mentioned Franklin Delano Roosevelt in there. Was he sort of the starting seed for all of this, empire of poverty? How did he get things started?
Absolutely. His crisis obviously was the Great Depression, but it provided a pretext for a mass seizure of power, for consolidation, all under one roof. In some ways, FDR actually went beyond what Obama has done here, but a lot of what he did had to be rolled back. But this was really the Democratic gold standard. This was what they were aiming for with Obama. This is why you had the covers depicting Obama as the new FDR.
Daniel Greenfield, author of today's column, The Empire of Poverty. All your stuff can be found on sultanknish.blogspot.com. Thanks for talking to me now.